In this tutorial series, I'm going to show you how you can implement testing into Laravel Filament. Now, I've just created this fresh project. It is using Pest. I've run the migrations. I've changed testing to use SQLite, but my database is MySQL. And I've installed Filament, and that is about it. Oh, I've also created a admin panel. One thing I am going to do quickly is just change these to include an admin folder, because in a future tutorial I do want to show you how you can test with multiple panels. So now if we create, it should add it into an admin folder. And like I explained on a previous tutorial, I just like to do this to keep the code a bit more organized, because if you don't add this, then it will have the resources folder out here, and then any new panels you add will be in a subfolder of the panel name, which I just think is a bit disorganized. So this first episode is going to be on login testing. So if we look at the Filament docs, this is how it determines who's allowed to access the panel. So you have to add this function, can access, and he's got to implement a Filament user. So we need to add this function and the implementation onto the user model. Just a heads up, you don't need this for when you're just in local environment, but if you do deploy to the production, it will just 403 forbidden unless you have this in production. So like I said, we need to add the implementation of Filament user, and then obviously now it will be complaining because we've not added this. And I think for a good start, we could just return this to just say that you can only access the panel if you've got a verified email address. So quickly before we create the login tests, we're just going to create some auth tests to make sure that only the right users can access the admin panel. Now again, I am using Pest, but any of these tests can be converted to PHP Union. So this first one will make sure that no guests or unauthenticated users can log in. So actually we're going to use the root, and then we need to add admin, and this test should pass now. Now the next test I want to do is to make sure that even if you're authenticated as a user, you can't access the admin panel if you have an unverified email. So we can use acting as, and then we can use the user model, and the user factory comes with this unverified, which just sets the email verified to null. And then if we chain this to then go use a get request to the admin, and then this, because we are authenticated as a user, we're just not allowed to access this panel, so it won't be a redirect because we are already logged in, so it'll actually be assert forbidden. Yep, and the test passed. The final test I want to do in this auth test is to make sure that users that are authenticated with a verified email address can access the panel. So to save some time, I've already created the test, so it allows logged in users with verified emails to access the panel. And so again, I'm just using the acting as with a user factory, but I'm not adding the unverified function, and then I'm just getting the admin panel, and then I'm asserting that it's successful. And as you can see, the test is passed. Now because we are using Pest and Filament is built on Livewire, we need to install the Livewire plugin for Pest. So if we grab this and install, now we should have access to the Livewire. So basically we need to put any of the Filament classes into here so that we can test it properly. Okay, so this is the first login test. I've just typed it out just to save you time, basically. As you can see by the amount of files, well, filament files I've accessed, testing with filament is not always the easiest thing. So this was the test. It can log in with valid credentials. So I've just created a user and just set the super secure password of password. And then I'm using the Livewire, and then I'm passing in the login class, which is the filament page of Auth login. And then I'm filling the form. And then this was what tripped me up. So for starters, to find this authenticate action name, I had to go into the login class, and then I had to look through all of the actions, and then I saw there was either register and authenticate. Now, if you go back to the test, I thought this would work, but unfortunately this doesn't actually log you in. Even if you remove this, so the test will actually pass now, which is a little bit confusing, but you haven't actually logged anyone in, because if you look at this, assert equals, you're asserting that the user's ID is the same as the auth ID, but it's saying that the actual ID, which is the auth ID, is null. Now this is because I was using call action, which is a filament testing thing, but you actually need to use just call, and after that it should work. So again, this is just one of the little nuances of filament testing. Sometimes it can be a bit frustrating, but hopefully I can help you walk you through this. So this is the next test I'm going to walk you through. So it does not log in with invalid credentials. So again, I'm just creating the user, and then I'm using the Livewire on the login class, and then filling the form, but I'm giving it the wrong password, and then I'm calling the authenticate action, and then I'm asserting that the form has errors. Actually, quickly, I did assert that the form has no errors here. That's a filament testing helper function. So for this, you would think that because I'm passing the wrong password, that the form errors would be password. But if you run this, it fails, and it should be email. And I was wondering why this would be until I looked at the actual login, and if you give it the right email address but then the wrong password, the actual error is on the email. So I'm assuming that's just for security purposes. So if we change this to email, and then we are asserting that it's null, the auth ID, so it's not logged in, this test should pass, and it does. So this is the last test I'm going to run you through. So it does not log in a user with an unverified email address. So this is pretty similar to the Auth test we've done, so it might be considered a bit overkill, but for demonstration purposes I'll run you through it. So we're just creating a user, and then we're setting the unverified again, and then we're filling in the details but with the correct details, and then we're calling the action, and then we're asserting that there's form errors on the email again. Now you assert the errors are on the email address and not the password, because again, that's just where the errors pop up. So if we type in this email address, or add this email address and then add the password, this is the correct password and the email address, but it is giving us an error because this user does not have a verified email address. And then finally, I'm just asserting that the auth ID is null. And that's about it for login and auth tests. Obviously, it depends what your implementation is. So if you decided to, add something else to this can access panel, you would probably want to test at least in one place that they can't log in, or they can't access the panel if they don't meet the requirements of your can access panel. If you liked the video, then please do like and subscribe. I'm going to try and turn this into a bit of a series on filament testing, because I feel like I've done it quite a bit now, and I know quite a lot about the little nuances of filament testing, so I want to try and spread the knowledge that I have on this. I've linked the GitHub the repo down in the description, so if you want to check out the code, then please do. And that's about it. I will see you in the next video.